Hello, welcome to Glazing with Amaco. So I'm Kara, and today I've got some Shino and PC glaze layering combo to share with you. I'm waiting a little bit because my chat feed is not showing up yet, and having to wait. Let me see if I can. Sorry. So we have today, this is Shino 41 Oolong Gloss. So I really love the Shino glazes because they are beautifully rustic, but they are also very stiff, so they will show off texture really beautifully. They generally do not run. You'll see that I brought the Shino all the way to the foot, and what did run a little bit was the PC glaze, where I brought it a little too far down. So the Shinos, though, will hold up right where you put them, so you can take them all the way down to the foot. But they do have these really beautiful breaks, so they'll break brown, and then where they're thick, they will show the color of the individual glaze. So I'm not showing any chat from our 5-6 group. Not sure really why. Oh, here we are. So there we go. I see it. Okay. So I have a vase here. So this was a very textured vase that I was working on, and I'm going to switch to the end screen. So this very textured vase, you can see that the glaze combination really shows off the deep texture of this carved vase. And then I layered PC 15 Satin Oribe over the top, gave it a little bit more depth. So I have this vase that I'm going to glaze today, but I wanted to show you because sometimes when we're doing brushing glazes, it can be difficult to figure out how you're going to glaze the inside of a vase. So this one is already glazed. I'm going to demonstrate with this vase, which has no glaze on the inside. So to start, I have HF11 white, which is from our Sahara line, and I used this one rather than snow because the jar that I have is more fluid. So you want to have a glaze that will pour in and pour out again. So you may need to add some water if you're using a glaze that's too thick. You can, I would recommend not watering down the entire jar, but just water down a small amount, just enough to do this. So I pour some in. It doesn't have to be a huge amount. And then I roll, and I roll it right over the jar and tip as I go and pour it back into the jar. So you can see that on the selfie camera. And I let it drip. I don't want to hold it straight up and down at this point because it'll drip all the way around. I want to hold it so it's just dripping at an angle. And there I go. I have a nicely poured interior. Now, to make sure that that doesn't settle in the bottom and be too thick at the bottom, maybe be crunchy and bubbly, I set it down on the table, upside down, and it will drain out a little bit. There will be some glaze on the table, and I'll just clean that up after I'm done. If you want to be really cautious about reclaiming everything, you can put it upside down in a dish, a cup, so that you catch all that glaze. So once that glaze was dry, I used my sponge, a clean sponge, and cleaned off any glaze that was around the edge. So you can see how this vase is white on the inside. That's how I did it. And I've got my Shino 41. Now, sometimes I've had people who are using the Shino get frustrated because it's just coming out brown, and they're using a color that they're wanting it to come out green, like the Oolong or the Matcha, or blue, like the Acai, and they're just getting brown, a lot of brown. And the Shinos definitely need to be applied on the thicker side, and they do best where there's texture that they can really be thick in. So I like this kind of textured surface. So how many of you have used the Shinos? Have any of you used the Shino line? And I'm not referring to PC50 Shino, but the Amaco Shino line starts with SH. So we have chai, acai, oolong, matcha, cacao, and hibiscus are the different colors. And we have them in gloss and in matte colors. One of the other nice things about the Shinos is they do dry pretty quickly. Oh, Evelyn made their bathroom floor with all 6 mats. I bet that is beautiful. I think I've seen the photo of that actually, Evelyn. Trying to recall. The mats are going to be a little bit drier at cone 5, and then they'll be a little bit more satin at cone 6. So that if they're coming out sandy, you might not be reaching the full cone 5.
She said you have.
I have. I thought so. Another thing that has come up is, yes, the Shinos, when you apply them, you might be able to see in the video, but they are kind of gritty. So when you are applying them, do be prepared. They're gritty. They're supposed to be gritty. That is part of their formulation, and it's just fine. So that first coat has already dried. I'm going to work my way back up, so it won't be quite as thick at the bottom. Got a little bit of a lump there. So these Shinos are based on the look of traditional Asian Shinos, which are very thick glazes. And these are not so thick, but they do somewhat imitate the look of Carbon Trap. Shinos. So they're not called Shinos because they're like the originals. They're just our version for electric firing. Okay, so there's 2 coats. And I'm going to show you the vase that I poured earlier. You can see it is kind of thick right at the edge, and I'm just going to sponge that back. You can also use an X-Acto blade to clean up glaze if it's not where you want it to be. But for this, I'm just going to sponge it back, and then I let it dry, and I can put glaze on the outside. And I just clean up where it was on my table. And that gave me time for my vase to dry a little bit. And then I'm going to talk about the Satin Oribe. PC15 Satin Oribe is one of our newer PC glazes. This just came out 2 years ago. And it is a satiny matte blue-green glaze. Most people are aware of, if you're aware of Asian glazes, you might know Oribes as being deep green, glossy, thick glazes. And this is not like that. This is a satin opaque glaze. It will show a little bit if you put like a black underglaze under it or put it on a dark clay. It will show some of that, but it is more or less an opaque glaze. But it is a beautiful blue-green glaze. And as you can see here over the Oolong gloss Shino, it just does a beautiful effect where it's kind of dripping in. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit, show you a close-up. The color's not great in this camera at the moment, but you can see how it just does some beautiful running there. So, and it did run a little bit. So I brought it down further than I intended. I wanted to stop here, and I got it a little further down, especially right there. And so it did create a run that I had to break off, and I will go back and sand that with a grinder to remove the glaze drip. It didn't drip badly, but just enough that I was like, well, that wasn't quite what I was going for. So I'm going to put a 3rd coat of the Oolong gloss on here. Now, if you're working on a smooth surface and you want it to have more of the green, you're going to need to apply it thickly, very evenly, or if you want it to have more of that rustic look, you can go back and sponge on a 3rd or even a 4th coat of the Shino. Let that dry. Put my brush away. Do I have any other questions or comments about using the Shinos or anything to do with the layering with the Shinos? We do have quite a bit of Shino layering. You can find it on our website. Go to Amaco.com. Go to the Glazes tab, High Fire Glazes, and click on Shinos, and you'll see quite a bit of layering combinations available. So it may take me a little while for this coat to dry, but I did want to wait so I can show you about how far down I came with the Satin Oribe on this. I really like how that came out. So the Shinos will always break brown regardless of what color your clay body is, even if you're using a white clay body. And they will show the color, the main color, where they're thick. So you can see on the image here. They'll be green where they're thick for the Oolong gloss, green where they're thick, and brown on the textured areas. Oh. Yes, Evelyn, they are. They're great for looking for earthy. I always call them rustic. They're very earthy and very natural looking. And I love, oh, I'm getting glaze all over the place. I love that there are the same colors in matte as in gloss. So if you're wanting a glossy interior to correspond to your matte exterior, you can do that. So you can kind of play with the matte versus gloss of them. It definitely, they're very natural looking.
Maggie Locke had a question.
Okay.
About are they okay to use inside mugs?
Yes, yes. The Shinos work great as liners as well. They are all food safe. And sorry, I'm just getting glaze on myself again because it's on the outside of my jar. They are all food safe. They are all suitable as liners. Some people might prefer not to use the matte Shinos for the insides of mugs or bowls just because they may be a little rough, and a lot of people don't like to use matte glazes for liners. I've used them on bowls and eaten out of them. They're fine. They are, and if you take the matte Shinos to cone 6, they won't be glossy, but they'll have kind of a satin feel to them, so a little bit less dry. So yeah, they work great for insides. The reason I used the white on the inside of this is I had the white. I know that sounds weird. So I also wanted to kind of show how it was different. So I'm going to go ahead. So see how fast the Shino dries? Super quick. So I'm going to bring the Satin Oribe right up to the rim. And on this one, I'm just going to do 2 coats of the Satin Oribe instead of 3, which is what I did on the other one. And the samples that we show on our website are 3 coats of Shino and 3 coats of PC. So I'm just going to bring it down about halfway, just to the fullest part. And then I'll do another coat when that is dry. Yeah, I think that the Shinos are some of the most overlooked of the Amaco high fire glazes, and being outside of the PC line. But they're just, I need to bring in a sample another time that is just the Shino. Do I have one? I have so many other things here. But they are just beautifully, earthy is the right word for it.
Do you want me to grab something?
Yeah, sure. If you can grab something. I think we have some bowls, David.
Okay.
I think we have some bowls that are Shino. Just Shino without something else on them. Oh yeah, perfect, perfect. This is hibiscus gloss, and this is hibiscus matte. And you can see same color, but very slightly different texture. So didn't mean to touch that there. And then this is the Oolong gloss. So this is the same as this vase, but without the Satin Oribe over it. Really nice. I just love them. Let me see if I can move this out of the way. Clear my table a little bit. Yeah, the hibiscus gloss is our red hibiscus gloss, red Shino, and this is the matte. So where it's thin, it's a little sandy. You can see how it's a white clay, but where it's thin, it looks like a brown clay. And it just highlights that texture really nicely. So let's see. I don't think that, I think that this is still a little bit wet. Well, I am going to let you all go. I'm going to get one more coat on this. I'll go ahead. So Satin Oribe by itself, another one of my favorites. I love how this looks just alone on textured surfaces, but I really love how it looks on the Shino too. So, no, don't run. There we go. All right, so I'm going to fire this weekend to cone 6, and I'll show you guys how it comes out next week. So thank you for joining me on my glazing adventures. If you have more questions, please just drop them in the chat, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. I will be back Monday, even though it is a 5th Monday, and usually but I wasn't here the first Monday. So we'll be here next Monday and just glazing. So have a great week, glaze on, and we'll see you later.